Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Edinburgh. I am the founder of Personal MBA Coach, a boutique MBA admissions consulting and tutoring business. I'm here today to talk to you about how to write business school essays, specifically crafting a winning personal story. Today I'll go through a little bit of an introduction about myself and my company, as well as a description of a poorly done personal story essay. Then we will take a look at a well-done personal story essay. We'll have some learning and reflection, and we will talk about next steps, what you can do if you have any questions about how to write your personal stories. A little bit of a background. I've been helping clients around the world get into dream schools since 2008. I did my undergraduate education at MIT. I then worked at Deloitte Consulting in the strategy and operations group, where I worked in mergers and acquisitions. I worked internationally and across many different industries, including healthcare, consumer products, tech. I went to Wharton for my MBA. I studied real estate and strategic management. And I also have experience at JP Morgan in finance. In total, I have 13 years of professional experience and over 10 years of admissions consulting experience running Personal MBA Coach as of April 2017. We've helped hundreds of clients and we have a 96% success rate. So what is Personal MBA Coach? We are a boutique one-on-one MBA and graduate school admissions consultancy. And we provide a comprehensive suite of services, including GMAT and GRE tutoring and admissions consulting. When applicants work with Personal MBA Coach, they receive full-time support from an expert. You work 7 days a week. Also a member of AGAC, which is the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants. It's an organization of some admissions consultants and admissions directors who collaborate to improve the process for you. Now, I help applicants through early MBA planning, which says here 1 to 3 years pre-application. I'm actually working with a lot of applicants who are even in college, otherwise recent graduates, who are trying to do everything they can to improve the profile a few years before applying, all the way through post-acceptance. Once you get accepted to schools, aside from celebrating, you want some help figuring out where you should go. You got scholarship at some schools and not at others. How do you make that decision? Clients who work with us have former clients to network with at every top school. We're a small family organization, and I have events in many different cities each year where former clients come to talk with current clients and help them think through the process. Talk to them about aspects of the schools that they like, aspects of recruiting that they don't like, classes, things like that. We also have former MBA interviewers to help applicants prepare for the crucial interview. And I work directly with all of the applicants. So calendars can vary, but having a calendar is important. When I work with applicants, I actually spend a lot of time up front doing the brainstorming, working on the personal story, and setting a very specific plan for what they should be doing throughout every step of the process. I want to show you a calendar just to have a sense of two things. One, how wide the personal story is. You can think about it for quite a long period of time, but also how many other things you should be thinking about as you're creating your own strategy, whether you're working with a consultant or working on your own. The personal story. Crafting your story will most likely be the hardest part of the application process. And it's an area where, as I mentioned, I spend a lot of time with clients. I believe it's also the most important. So why is it so important? Well, first, differentiation. That's a buzzword that a lot of people like to use to basically say why they're better than somebody else. Differentiation is very important, and it really comes across in the personal story. I get a lot of complaints / concerns from applicants that they're not differentiated. Perhaps they're a consultant working for a major consulting firm, or they work in finance, or they're in consumer products and they see so many other people look and feel like them who are applying to school. They start to worry whether they're good enough. Well, the good news is while you can differentiate yourself to some extent at work, obviously if you have high ratings, salary increases, things of that nature, you really can differentiate yourself a lot more if you think about the personal story. There are only so many jobs that applicants have, and there are a lot more stories that people have. So differentiation is important. Next, describing the personal story, really, it serves as an explanation for why you want to go to business school. And that's important. It's important for you to know because business school is an investment of time and money, and it's important for the admissions directors to know. It's also a test for how well you will perform in the interview, laying out your story, explaining yourself, being logical, picking out the key aspects that you feel admissions directors want to hear and read about is a test. And this is probably the most important. It ensures that you're really picking the right programs at the right time and leveraging them to maximize the benefit for you. There are a lot of schools out there, and applicants can apply to all of them. So whether you want to apply to M7 schools, top 10 schools, top 15, whatever it may be, you're probably going to have to make some decisions as to what schools you don't want to apply to and which ones you do. And your story is an important factor there because the story drives you and your personality and the way you'll fit into these programs. And if you articulate a strong story, then the schools are more likely to think that you'll fit in, and you're probably more likely to have fun. So most schools want to know your personal story, but a lot of them actually combine personal and professional. So today I'll show you 2 examples of personal story essays. These are both essays that were asked in the 2016 to 2017 application season. Harvard Business School asks, as we review your application, what more would you like us to know as we consider your candidacy for the Harvard Business School MBA program? Very open-ended, very broad. There's no word limit. And it's really up to you to determine what you should tell them. So what should you tell them? Well, you should write a little bit about your personal story and also write about your professional story. Now, I won't go into a ton of detail as to how to answer Harvard's question. That's topic for another video. But today I will talk about the personal story. Then Chicago Booth asks, following is a collection of shared booth moments. Choose the moment that best resonates with you and tell us why. And there's a collection of pictures that applicants have to choose from. So we're going to start with a Harvard essay. I put this in the category of a poorly written essay, but in full disclosure, this applicant eventually got in. We just did a lot of work on the essay to improve. This is one of the earlier versions. As a child, when my parents asked me what I wanted to do later in life, I said, help people. Although I did not know what it meant to help people then, I have been focused on figuring out how in everything I do. There's actually a typo in here, if you see above. That's one reason why it was a poor initial draft. From being a dominant participator in school and social life, to being involved in different organizations and improving the businesses I worked for, I have focused on helping organizations to ultimately help people. My curious and adventurous nature led to my top performance in school. But strong school grades are not a goal themselves. Since school, I have been helping my community in ways ranging from tutoring to sports assistance to public speaking, the same approach I would bring to HBS and my fellow classmates. Working as a XYZ, I learned how to balance multiple team priorities, problem solve, and communicate, something I do personally and professionally today. Okay, so not horrible, but let's dissect this. This candidate has a great background, lots of good qualities and experience. However, he has way too much going on. His theme is helping others. That is very vague and not really unique. He then lists lots of areas he has done this, but doesn't really explain or revisit them. He also lists many, many personal qualities without real focus. Now, you are not seeing the rest of the answer, but throughout the statement, he touches on being a male in a female-dominated field, personal tragedy, being a mentor, and technology. These are all potentially great themes, but it's important to pick one and carry it through. So at the end, the reader is left not really understanding his path or what actually makes him unique. What went wrong? No theme or lack of a clear theme, too much detail. Also too vague at times and somewhat illogical. We're going to talk about a Chicago Booth essay now as an example of one that was done well. Now, as I mentioned, when you apply to Booth, at least for the last 2 years, applicants selected from a number of pictures and then wrote about why that picture or moment resonated with them. I'll read the caption here. Nearly 100 Chicago Booth students put on a massive flash mob to surprise the class of 2017 admitted students visiting Harper Center in February 2015. The choreographed performance of the hit Uptown Funk was organized by members of the Booth Dance Club, one of 80 student groups on campus. And you see a picture of students doing a flash mob. Okay, so let's see what the essay is. In the performing arts, every instrument, dancer, or brushstroke has an integral role to play in creating a masterpiece. Similarly, in a flash mob, what starts in an empty room quickly grows from an unexpected and often awkward individual to a large group of synchronized dancers, just like the one depicted of the Booth Dance Club performing in the Harper Center. This Booth moment most resonated with me, not only because of my lifelong commitment to the performing arts, but also because the picture displays the themes of intellectual curiosity, collaboration, and leadership, themes that are a part of my life, themes that are a large part of my life. So right away at the beginning, you already have a sense of better theme here. My parents put a bongo in my hands when I was a young child, unaware of the artistic adventure I would soon embark upon. After the bongo, I learned how to play the piano, the clarinet, etc. I also explored the realm of dance by auditioning for and joining the college Bollywood dance team, Planto, and later, ... My dedication to the performing arts has fueled my intellectual curiosity, curiosity that I also maintain in professional settings. While at Big Four firm, okay, so why does this essay work? One, there's a strong theme, the theme of curiosity, ends up playing throughout the essay. And that's something that's a little hard to see in that example. The essay is focused, discusses a few key areas in reasonable detail. It's also unique. So getting back to that differentiation, I had one applicant who took performing arts and connected it to professional achievements this year. That was this applicant. This applicant happened to get into Booth with around $100,000 scholarship as well. And it really was a strong fit with this applicant's goals. Not that it's required. Your professional goals can certainly be different from your personal goals, but if they do come together, it makes it interesting. Now, this essay ended up going on to discuss key career highlights, all of which show him being curious. This is unique and ownable for him. It's ownable. The future goal of joining investment banking, leveraging past finance experience. This theme not only fits with his goals, but with his personal strengths and weaknesses. I can't stress enough that it's important to own your story. Figure out what your story is, what the elements are, and make it yours. Be passionate about it. You're much better off having a mediocre experience doing something that's not terribly impressive if you focus on it and you own it and you're passionate about it, than to write about a hodgepodge of different things without any real clear message. Some tips on thinking through your personal story. First, think through your family and your background. Now, take that advice with a grain of salt. These essays should be your essays. Admissions directors don't want to read an entire essay about a relative or grandmother who did the next best thing in the world. At the same time, if there's something strong and powerful that happened to your family or to someone from your background and that drove your goals, then that becomes important and can certainly be a component of your story. Think about your activities from childhood on. I'll give you an example of what I did when I applied to schools. I broke the mold a little bit. It's always good to write about recent experiences as opposed to older experiences, all things being equal. Recent, ideally within the last few years. But I had something that happened to me when I was younger, and I ended up getting involved in an organization around that from a nonprofit standpoint. I then went on to start a nonprofit, and it really became a passion of mine. So most of what I did around this actually happened when I was in high school. But because I did certain things after graduating college, I was able to create a strong story, and that actually became a center point of my applications. Think about your hobbies. It's okay if you have not started a new water treatment facility in South Sudan. Maybe you're just a really good surfer, or you play the piano. Perhaps you also help the neighbor down the street learn how to play the piano, or you play at a wedding, or something else interesting. Hobbies can be parts of your personal story. And whether they would be the strongest elements or not, it really depends. If you have any questions, get in touch with me. We'll talk about contact information at the end. I can certainly help you think through things. Next, look at your resume. I tell this to applicants, and they're often surprised because they think of the resume as just experience that's already out there, and then the story has to be separate. A lot is on your resume. Your story can contain elements from your professional background, and it probably contains some volunteer things as well. So look at your resume, remind yourself what you've done, and think about what might be relevant as you're thinking about your story. Then think about your goals, your professional goals. Again, if the personal story ties to the professional story, that's great, though it doesn't have to. Now, once you put all this information on paper, look for common themes that tie everything together. This then becomes the basis for your story. This takes time. I spend at least one session, long session, with all applicants at the beginning of our relationships, and often it's multiple sessions, to work through the personal story. What we whiteboard, the first meeting might be different from what we whiteboard in meeting 2 or meeting 3, because things develop and things evolve. So this isn't the kind of thing that you should do on your own in 20 minutes one night while in the shower. You might have to think about this for a while. Some key takeaways, the personal story. Think about what makes you unique. Again, differentiation is key. You don't have to be the most differentiated applicant in the world. At the end of the day, a lot of people get into schools, and everyone isn't completely different from the next student. But there's usually something that's interesting about them. Focus on the highlights. Don't feel that you have to include everything about you and your background in this story. It's fine if you actually ignore half of what you've done in your life if it's not really relevant to your business school application. The story should fit with your overall application. So if you're writing about going into healthcare and you had some volunteer experience working for a healthcare nonprofit, that kind of makes sense. The more that everything can go together with each other, the better. Include personal and professional detail. Everything doesn't need to tie perfectly together, but you do want some detail thrown in. And again, think about your goals. Now, a well-crafted personal story not only includes the personal and professional accomplishments, but also shows logical connections. You want to allow the reader to have a sense of who you are, what has shaped you, and how you stand out from peers. And if you have any questions about how to do that, let me know. Now, our clients this year, and this is through April of 2017, with the numbers still rolling in, received over 3.3 million in merit fellowships across a number of top schools. This is a selection of some of the schools that our clients will be going to the next year. So what do we do at Personal MBA Coach, and how can I help you? As I mentioned earlier, we provide comprehensive GMAT and GRE tutoring. Depending on the city that you live in, we might have a tutor in your city to meet you face-to-face. Otherwise, we do virtual tutoring. I have a tutor who received a 4.0 from MIT and who's a Wharton PhD with over 7 years of experience, who does tutoring via video Skype, and the sessions are all customized. One thing that differentiates Personal MBA Coach is the way that we go about the process. So if you sit down on session 1, tutor, neither you nor I nor the tutor will know what you will do in the subsequent sessions. And the reason for that is everyone has a different approach. Everyone needs help in different areas. And so the sessions are all customized. Some people spend more time on one area than another, and some people learn in different ways than others. Then for the admissions consulting, we go through an initial brainstorming session, and we go through personal story development. All the same topics that we talked about today, we would go into in great detail with you. I have a specific form that you can fill out. We have a conversation, whether it's in person, on the phone, via video Skype, and then we naturally migrate into school selection. School selection is really important. Talked a little bit about this before. It's important to go to the school that's the right fit for you. There are a lot of great schools out there, and applicants can't apply to all the schools, and so it's important to pick. As you pick, you're obviously thinking about ranking. Ranking is important, but beyond ranking, you want to think about career reports. You want to think about just the fit with the actual school, what the classes are like, what the students are like. So I help applicants think through that, just based on my knowledge of working with these schools over the years. Most of what you would do through the applications, whether you work on them on your own or with a consultant, is spend time working on the essays. So most of the work that we do is working on the essays. developing content for the essays, suggesting ideas, detailed, unlimited line-by-line editing of the essays. And the same goes for the resume as well. And we help with letters of recommendation, figure out who you should ask to write the letters, and help you guide them through the content that they should ideally include in the letter to support the rest of your application. And we do mock interviews. As I mentioned, we have former interviewers on our team to help applicants prepare themselves for the interview. And lastly, this is the part I enjoy the most, is the acceptance decisions. Figuring out where you should go once you get in, where is actually the best place for you. So if you have any questions about the personal story or about anything to do with applications or career development in general for graduate schools, feel free to give me a call, send me an email, or visit the website. Contact me to also learn about special GMAT Club early bird incentives if you're ready to start early in your applications. Thank you very much for the time.